Hey everyone, welcome to the Rebellious Garden. My name is Laura and I'm so glad that you're here today. Ignore the mess in the background. Been preparing my grow racks, cleaning up, getting ready for seed starting, which is what I'm doing here today. Yes, it is the beginning of September. It is actually the Sunday before Labor Day, and I am starting my seeds for next year. What's great about the climate that we live in is there are a lot of seeds that we can start in the fall or late summer, early fall time that will grow over the winter. We start them inside and then transplant them outside right before we get our average first frost, which is around the beginning of November. And when we do that, it allows the roots to grow strong throughout the whole winter. And that way, early spring, when we start getting a little bit of warm temps, those seedlings will shoot right up and produce flowers earlier than the average plant. So I am getting started today, and I have already made my little inedible brownie patties. I jokingly call my soul blocks that because last year I posted a picture of it and everybody goes, those look like brownies. And I'm like, you wouldn't want to eat these, they're dirt. So I already have those made. I have a total of 500 made. Most of these are going to be snapdragons, and then I'm going to start some other seeds. So let me show my inedible little brownie patties. You can see them. These are made with a soil blocker, which you can see here. And my bucket of sludge, I use a potato masher to mix my soil, break up clumps, and then my soil blocker to make my little brownie patties, which are my soil blocks. So each of these trays hold 100 soil blocks, and these are the smaller ones. I think they're 3/4 of an inch each. Don't quote me on that, but you can see in these where you have your soil and then you have a little divot. The seed goes in there. Some of the seeds will get covered with dirt. Some will be left uncovered depending upon if they need light to germinate. And then I will keep the soil blocks moist and keep them on a heat mat until they germinate. And then I'll take them off the heat mat and then just continue to keep the soil blocks moist, but not too moist. And I know a lot of people hate that word, but oh well. And I'll continue to keep the soil blocks wet, and then have them underneath the grow lights here in the house until they are big enough to go out into the garden in a few weeks. Okay, now that I have my soil blocks made, I am going to start putting my seeds in them. I've already done one section, but I'm gonna do the rest of this particular section with you. So what you need for this, obviously, are seeds. I have a Snapdragon Rocket Mix from Johnny's Seed Company. I have a little glass bowl and some toothpicks, which I'll explain that more here in just a minute, as well as painter's tape and a garden marker. So we'll get through those in a minute. So the reason I have the glass bowl with the toothpick is because Snapdragon seeds are super tiny. There are about 100 seeds in here, and I don't know if you can see them very well. They're really tiny. So that's about a cluster of 100 seeds right there. See if I can get one on my finger. You see that little black speck? That is one little Snapdragon seed. So it would be really hard to pick those up individually and put in the soil blocks. So that's where the toothpick comes in. You take the toothpick, you touch it to the tip of your tongue. I know it sounds gross, but it's growing in dirt, it's gonna be fine. So touch the tip of the toothpick to the tip of your tongue, or you can use a little dish of water, and then it moistens it just enough to allow you to pick up an individual Snapdragon seed with your toothpick. Can you see that? I don't know how well you can see it. There you go. You see a little black speck on the end. Then once you do that, you just drop it onto the dirt, and voila, you have planted a seed. And you just repeat. You don't have to wet your toothpick every time. The soil is moist enough that you shouldn't really have to do it again, and if you do, just tap it to your tongue or put it in a little dish of water. Putting a dirty toothpick to the tip of your tongue is not going to hurt you either, because God made dirt and dirt don't hurt, right? So we do this over and over and over again until either I use all my seeds or I fill up my soil blocks. Then after that, we label them and then move on to the next seed. Oops, I need to reseed that one. Sometimes when I get 2 seeds on the end of my toothpick, I can drop one in one soil block and move to the next one. And it goes pretty quick doing this. There you go. There are 20 seeds started in that one little square of soil blocks. So I'll keep on going until the rest of these are finished. So all 100 soil blocks have been planted. I just did this entire tray of the Snapdragon Rocket Mix from Johnny's. I'm gonna dip these back in here real quick. Some of them didn't want to come out. One more. Okay. Put these back in their little bag, into their little seed pouch, and set it over here to the side where it won't get wet. So I'm gonna set this to the side. So next, the painter's tape and the marker. Instead of buying fancy dancy little labels, painter's tape with what type of plant you're planting, the variety, works really well. So I'm gonna try to slide this over. I don't know how well you can see with the glare. I have Snapdragon Rocket Mix written on here. That way I know this entire tray is that particular variety of Snapdragon. So next, depending upon the seed, you would cover it with dirt. Snapdragons need light to germinate, so I am not going to cover them with any dirt. I'm going to leave them just as is, and I'm going to spray the tray every day, mist the top of the soil as well as bottom water, until I see my Snapdragons germinate. Once 50%, maybe a little bit more than that. I'd love for 70%. But once a little over half of them germinate, then I'll quit top misting and I'll pull them off my heat mat, because they'll sit on a heat mat to help with the germination. I'll pull them off the heat mat, I'll quit top misting, and I'll just continue to bottom water, and I'll have them sit on my grow racks underneath the lights, so they will grow big and strong in time for me to go transplant them out before it frosts. So there you go. There are 100 baby Snapdragon plants potentially. So my next thing I'm gonna start a lot of Snapdragons. I love Snapdragons. I'm gonna start a few different varieties. I'm trying to think which one I want to do next. It's like a deck of playing cards here. Which one am I gonna go for? Oh, this one, most definitely. This was a favorite. It is an Apple Blossom. It is a gorgeous color. The cool thing about using painter's tape, last year I used paper labels. I think these were the Lysianthus or either Snapdragons. Yeah, this tray was used for Snapdragons last year. I use labels and they're really hard to get off. And that's what's so cool about the painter's tape, is because it just peels right off. So it's not hard. Matter of fact, there's some right here left over from the second round of, this is where I planted zinnias in this tray later on in the season. So painter's tape comes right off. So it makes cleanup a lot easier, and I'm not having to like scrape and scrub to get these little labels off right here. So the other Snapdragons I'm planting are the Apple Blossom. I'm going to do a Costa Silver, and I'm going to do a Potomac Sunrise, and where's my other one? Hold on. Oh, I have some Madam Butterfly, a few different varieties of those that I'm going to start. So I'm going to get to starting these. Trying to get them. There we go. Had to get my cards sorted. So I'm going to get these planted, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So the next one I'm going to goodness, the next one I'm going to plant is Love in a Mist. I absolutely love this. I had it in a lot of my spring bouquets, but I failed to do a succession planting of it, so I did not have any in late season. But it is absolutely beautiful flower used in the green stage, the flowering stage, as well as the seed stage, like when it develops a seed pod. So it's one of those that if you don't cut it in time, it's cool, wait a little bit, and then you can use a seed pod. So I love a very forgiving plant. These seeds are much larger. You can see them pretty well. So all of these overwinter pretty well in eastern North Carolina. There you go. See, much bigger. A little bit bigger than the size of a gnat, which I'm fighting with. I'm just going to use my fingers to plant these. Once again, just one seed in each little square. And I'm probably going to do this entire tray because I love this. I didn't have great germination with this last year. I don't know why, but I'm gonna try again because what I did get, I absolutely loved. I have a tendency, I don't have a very large growing space, so I have a tendency to overplant. But I do that for a couple of reasons. One, because I'm such an optimistic person. Two, because I haven't had 100% germination on anything that I've planted, which is okay. Matter of fact, if you ever read your seed packets, a lot of them will put the germination rate, because they test it, certain number of seeds, see how many germinate. And that is based upon how many seeds germinate. That is how they test, or not test, but that's how they get to what their germination rate is. At least that's what I've been told. So, where's this? Not every company puts their germination rate onto their seed packets. I think this one does not have it on there. I know, I think Johnny's does. Yeah. So Persian cress grass for Johnny's, their germination rate's 99%. I had great luck with my Persian cress last year. My Baker Creek one, I don't see the germination rate on it, but I could very well be overlooking it just skimming. It's okay. This is what I get for talking and swatting a gnat that came in with me. Okay, I lost my spot. But I plant extra, so if I do have a poor germination rate, I have a better chance of having the number of plants that I desire to have. Plus, I always plant extra out in the garden because some of them are bound to die at some point, whether due to stress from weather, pest, we have too much rain and the roots rot out, we don't have enough rain and they drought, kills them, whatever. I have extra plants, or some die in the process of growing in the house. So I always want to have extra. And if I do have plenty that survive, this is another tray that has stuff down the side of it. If I do have plenty that survive in the growing process or the seed starting process, then I just give them away. I give them to people, or if it's market time, I'll sell them. So I'm going to dump these back in here, save them for later. And these are seeds from last year. So you can save seeds from year to year to year if you don't use them all. However, you may have a reduced germination rate. So all the reason to plant extra. But these are for last year's seeds. So, what am I doing? Oh, I'm writing a label. Love in a Mist. I just love that name. And if I have a single tray of the exact same thing, I just write really big. So I can just do one big label down the side of it. Make sure that it's clean. And place like so. Ta-da! 100 Love and a Mist. Hopefully 100 seedlings. So trade out our trays. An unplanted one. Like new. Another one that has labels down the side of it that I couldn't get off. Hence why I switched to the painter's tape. Alright. So another seed that you can plant in the fall that makes a beautiful greenery is dill. Another great thing about dill is you can use it when your cucumbers come in. When I have planted dill in the spring and in the summer, I've never had it developed. It was either too far gone or wasn't what stage it needed to be in order to use it for pickles. But this past year, when I started my seeds in the fall and I did the dill in the fall, oh man, I had no issue having dill at the same time I had cucumbers. But I didn't make pickles. I made pickles the year before last, but not this year. Dill actually does better with direct sowing into the ground, but because my garden is still full of stuff, because it is still in its prime for seeds coming off. I can't rotate to behind them very well. There we go. I love their seeds are like zebra looking. Come back here. But yeah, these do better directly sown into the ground. However, I have started them indoors and had a good success with them, but they prefer to be started in the ground. But my garden is still full of flowers and cucumbers and tomatoes, and I'm getting ready to do one last planting of squash and zucchini. So these will be started, at least some of them started in the tray to go ahead and start, and then I'll start more later. Ooh, I might do 2 per hole because I don't have really good germination with my dill. Da, 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 da. I had my dill and my Love and a Mist together this past year, and it looks so pretty out there. I need to go back. I can't remember if Love and a Mist requires light to germinate. If Love and a Mist requires darkness, then I will put a light coating of dirt over top of it and do the same thing I do with the Snapdragons. I'll put it on the heat mat, keep the top of the soil damp, and then take it off the heat mat once it germinates. Sorry, reading, talking at the same time don't work for me. Something I want to learn more about. I tried baby's breath. I tried baby's breath last year and wasn't very successful with it, but I want to try it again this year because it's just so beautiful and it's really making a comeback. And as far as being used in bouquets, when I grew up, like in the 90s, and the bouquets with like roses full of, it's like your red roses with your baby's breath, and like the fern style leaves were all the rage at the time, and they kind of went out of style, but baby's breath itself is making a good comeback. And I used some in a bouquet. It was some that I bought, but I used some in some bouquets earlier in the year for a wedding that I was helping do bouquets for, and it was just gorgeous. But I can't remember if we can plant this in the fall, so I'm gonna do some research. All of that. These are all my fillers. I have so much dill and Love and a Mist and basil. Basil you definitely cannot plant in the fall. I'm gonna leave this sitting out. Basil you definitely cannot plant in the fall because it does not like being cold. There. what next? I have my little seed box here. Straw flowers. Poppies. Poppies, I want to start poppies. I did some last year for, yeah, I did some last year and they were absolutely beautiful. I didn't put them in bouquets because they don't do well. They don't last very long. It's kind of a here today, gone tomorrow flower. But I want to grow some this year for their seed pods because their seed pods look really, really cool. I don't know if there's a picture of one on here. I don't think, oh. Their seed pods are so pretty though. The flowers themselves are gorgeous, but they don't last very long. But their seed pods, they remind me like a little drumstick, and they sound like ring sticks, like when you shake them. So those definitely do not like being transplanted, very much like sweet peas. So I'm gonna direct sow those in a few more weeks. Now, I know I ordered more yarrow. Or did I? I did. There it is. I know I ordered more yarrow. Yarrow does really good overwintering. I did that last year and it was awesome. What I can't remember is if I overwintered Orlea. Direct seed. 2 to 3 successive plantings. You do not tell me. Greenhouse 4 to 6 weeks. Harden off. Plant after last frost. Okay, so I'll plant these in the spring. Orlea was gorgeous. I did a bridal bouquet full of Orlea and it was so pretty. There's some more baby's breath. More yarrow. I need to order more yarrow. Do you even have? Okay, yeah. Gosh, I thought I had more than that. Yarrow seeds are so tiny. Sorry to keep putting my elbow right in the camera. These are yarrow seeds. They look like grains of sand. Y'all see that? Best I can tell you with yarrow, the toothpick method. Oops, stuck my finger right in that. I'm gonna do the rest of this as yarrow. So I do not know everything about flower farming. I'm going into my 3rd year of growing flowers for the purpose of making bouquets and hopefully bringing smiles to people's faces. And I am still learning. Even seasoned farmers who've been doing it for 20 plus years still need refreshers and stuff from time to time. So one of the resources I use aside from the internet is a book by Lisa Mason Ziegler, and it's called Cool Flowers. This is for starting seeds in the fall and letting them grow over winter, as well as early spring, like before the frost. I would not have had flowers as early in the season. Like, I wouldn't have had flowers ready for Mother's Day if it weren't for this book. So I was tickled pink to get it last year and really start studying it. And I have marked it all up. There's paper sticking out every which way. And I frequently refer to it for, you know, what I can start and when I can start. I go through this book and I put dates in my calendars as to, hey, in this week or 2 time period, I need to make sure I get these type of seeds started. That way I'll have succession planting documented, as well as just the initial start, or when I need to take my seedlings and transplant them outside. And it's all based upon our local frost dates. I'm sitting here looking like what's on my finger in this marker. So I definitely refer to this. I mean, it even gets into details whether or not to cover the seed. So I know my dill and my yarrow, after referencing, I do not need to cover. Or, yeah, I don't need to cover it with dirt. It needs light to germinate, just like my snapdragons. One thing in doing this is I wanted to start some feverfew, but I realized that the seed inventory that I did earlier this summer, I ordered seeds, and then I used my feverfew that I ordered some of to do another planting of it. So I am now making myself a list of seeds I need to order as replacements for stuff I'm missing. So that's going to be a learning experience for next year, to not just do a summer inventory, but do an early fall inventory, so I can make sure I have everything before it gets sold out. Another thing I'm working on is learning how to save seeds from certain plants. Some plants are super easy. Some plants are a little bit more tricky. Do you see the rainbow right there? I mention this every time it comes through. On our windows up front, we have these really cool stickers. And when the afternoon sun hits it, because the front of our house faces south, when the afternoon sun hits it, it shoots these really beautiful rainbows, and they look almost, I don't know, like it's electric. They look fake, but they're absolutely gorgeous. But they're like little prism stickers, and they're so cool because they shoot these rainbows into our house, and probably in about 20 minutes, our entire kitchen is going to be like striped with rainbows. It's really cool. The kids love it. Sometimes I'll be in here filming a video or something and just have like a rainbow stripe across my face or my shoulder. It's kind of funny, actually. The next seed I'm going to start is for straw flowers. Come here. So I don't really put straw flowers in bouquets. I did early in the season, like in spring, because they were some of the first flowers I had, but I liked them in bouquets. They were pretty, but to me, they were a little finicky on when to cut. So they would, the stem would stay stiff and they'd stay upright in the bouquet. Learning curve, something I need to work on, learning that. But I love straw flowers for dried flowers. A lot of the dried flower decorations I've been making have straw flowers in them. So I'm going to continue growing straw flowers for the purpose of using as dried flowers. And that might be just the way I do it. That's just my sole purpose of growing them. It's just to dry them. They're really pretty flowers though. Okay. So these little seeds look like tiny little pellets. I don't know if you can see that very well. A little speck right there. That's a straw flower seed. So I will probably still use a toothpick with these, just so I can get one in each little block. This is a vintage white straw flower. I'm also going to plant the sultane. I don't know if sultane or sultan mix. Apricot, silvery rose, and I have more, but we're going to see if that fills my tray or not. But straw flowers, and you'll see these at Christmas. I have really pretty little ornaments made, as well as mason jars that are made and that I'm still working on. But they have straw flowers as part of it, and they're dried and they look absolutely beautiful. I keep turning my camera on and off because my kids don't like being on film, and they've been outside playing and crafting and all stuff. So every time I hear the door open, I turn my camera off. So I finished planting my vintage white straw flower seeds. These are really pretty. Let me see if I have some dried behind me. These have produced all summer long, so I am not complaining. One thing I failed to do was pinch them early in the season, and that's kind of where you cut the plant in half and it causes it to branch, and I didn't do that, so I had a lot of really long stalks. And then I did like a really hard pinch, so a really deep cut into it during the season, and it took a while for it to like grow back up. But lesson learned, I'll do better with that next year. Let's see if I have some dried ones. Just pull that whole thing off. Here's some of my clusters of dried flowers. So Gomphrena, everybody has loved having this Gomphrena in their bouquets, and I always tell them that'll be one of the last things to die in your bouquet, and to pull it out and hang it upside down where it gets some good airflow and it's dark, and it'll dry beautifully and retain its color. So there's proof. Some amaranth, some of my Rebecca, that's dried, but right here, and these aren't fully dried, they're still green because I just hung them up a couple days ago, but I'll try to show them to you. Let me move this. So I think that was one of the Sultan mix. This was one of my pink, like dark red, dark pink colored ones. And then this was the vintage white one. So that's just, this is what the flower will look like dried for the seed that I just started. So see, it retains its color beautifully and its shape. There's some more. These are like a dark reddish purple. So they dry really well. I wish I could start seeds and move as quickly as you do in a time-lapse video. Ugh, I grabbed the wrong marker. This is my note-taking marker. So I have filled the seeds, or filled all the trays that I started today. I have dirt left, so I'm gonna go wash some more trays and start some more seeds. But first, I'm gonna go get these put on the heat mat. Let's see. Trying to do not cover. Cool. All of these seeds. None of the seeds I planted today requires to be covered with dirt, so they require light to germinate. So that's awesome. Check out it. See, there goes my little stripe. But I'm gonna go get my water bottle full of clean water, and I'm gonna mist the seeds really well and put them on the heat mat, and I'll show you what my heat mat looks like. So no one believes me when I say I don't have a greenhouse. Everyone thinks all these seeds are started in a big fancy greenhouse, and they're not. They are started in our house on a little tiny grow rack, and we can start thousands of seeds this way. So this is our grow rack. Nothing fancy, just a metal rack. I've done a video about how we build it. We have shop lights on it, which they're at an angle because I was cleaning the dirt off the top of them. But right here is our heat pad, and I just set the seedling trays on it. I keep them spritzed, water bottles up here, and some gnat spray right there. I have little yellow sticky fly traps at the end anytime I have seedlings. Right now it's been used to dry flowers and grasses and stuff for crafts, like the eucalyptus that I had left over the other day I dried. But all my new seedlings will go right here, and I'll keep the light off because there's enough light in here. Well, I take that back. These require light to germinate, so I will turn this light on and have the heat mat on, and I'll keep the soil damp but not too wet because we don't want algae or anything else to grow. And then we'll take them off the heat mat and move them up to a different rack once, and keep the lights on it once they begin to germinate. Something that I am going to try new this year. I had issues last year with my snapdragons. Pick you up. I had issues last year with my snapdragons. When they would germinate, they would just germinate as a stick, and they wouldn't have any leaves, and I couldn't figure out why that was. And I was doing some research, and I saw another grower was having the same issue a few years back, and she said, I don't know if it's true, but it makes sense to me, that when it was germinating, the soil didn't stay moist enough, so she had low germination rates, and then it would only germinate as the stick and the leaves weren't there. So the way that she fixed that issue was to put some saran wrap just lightly over the top of the trays, and it would help hold the moisture in, kind of create like a little greenhouse. And that way she didn't have to constantly wet the top of the soil to keep the seeds wet, because when you put them on a heat mat, it can dry out a little bit faster than you think. So I'm going to give that a go this year and see if it works for me as well, and see if I have a better rate of germination with my snapdragons and the ones that do germinate, if they have leaves or if they just come up as a stick. because the ones that came up as a stick, I just had to toss. So I'm gonna give that a try as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover the trays with some saran wrap. I have my heat mat plugged in, warming up. I have a spray bottle right here full of water so I can mist the top of the trays. My dirt is plenty wet. You don't want them sitting in water because it'll break the blocks apart and it'll encourage algae growth and even mold. So you don't want the soil blocks to be sitting in water all the time. So I'm just going to mist the top, water once a day, keep saran wrap on top of it till they germinate, and go from there. There you have 500 baby seedlings, or seeds at least started. Plastic wrap. You can already see the little fogging of it, the moisture. So that'll help hold the moisture in, keep the seedlings moist until they can germinate. And I'll just pull it off and spritz it every once in a while. It's not tight on there, so it can get some airflow. I am also starting the status for the fall. I do status in the fall and in the spring. As you can see, our little rainbow reflection has now come across me. So I am starting status, and I'm going to do Seeker Blue, Apricot, and Seeker Purple. Trying to decide which one I want to do first. These seeds came from the Gardener's Workshop, which is from the same place that my book I was talking about earlier came from. Alright, we're going to start with Seeker Blue Pastel. These are small enough I can just drop one per little tray, but you know what? I'm going to use my toothpick anyway. Maybe not. That stuck to my fingernail. I absolutely love status. It does great as a flower mixed into bouquets, especially if you cut it at the right time. I struggled with getting it cut at the right time this past year, but once I got it figured out, it did great. It also does incredibly well as a dried flower. I have a lot of it dried behind me. As a matter of fact, most of mine I used as dried flowers this year. Alright, blue pastel is done. Going to move on to, let's just do blue next. I'm going to try to do 20 of each. So I have 2. So if you don't want to buy the fancy green trays like I had for seed starting, another thing I do is I use the foam trays. This is from where I bought meat at the grocery store, and I just save the little foam tray that it comes in, and I just wash it really, really well and use it. So this is year 2 of using them, and I've used these 3 or 4 times last season between starting seeds in the fall of last year, and then again in early spring, and then again during the summer. So they hold up really well as long as you take good care of them. But I have my Seeker Blue going in. These are really pretty. So since I have the same variety of flower in this tray, it's both status, I'm going to do one really long strip of painter's tape. And in the middle, just doing my best guesstimate, I'm going to write status and put 2 little dots, and then figure out which end's going to be what. So Seeker Blue Pastel, and then Seeker Blue. That way it lands right in front of the correct seed block. I was really bad about labeling my plants when they went out to the garden last year. I had them labeled in the house in my little seed trays. But then when I went out to the garden, I was in such a rush to get them out there because I work full time and, you know, have kids and all that good stuff. So I would just kind of squeeze in time here and there to put stuff in the garden. And I didn't take time to label everything. So that's one of my goals this year. So when I am cutting and people ask what specific variety something is, I can say, this is not just Status, this is the Seeker Blue Pastel. So I can remember what's what. Status does like a little bit of soil on top of it. The soil that is wet in my container here that I was doing my soil blocks with is going to be a little bit too heavy. So I'm going to get some fresh dirt from outside in my little bag. I have a bag of Pro Mix that I use. I'm going to get some of it and sprinkle on top because it just needs a very light coating to help it. All right, I'm going to stay with the Seeker theme. And I'm going to do apricot next. My apricot seedlings were so pretty last year. I only had a few, but man, were they pretty. They're like a peachy color. Oh, I loved them. Trying to grab just one seed at a time so I don't put two accidentally into a spot. Because I only have about 20 to 25 of each of these. That was my son. Alright, almost done here with the Seeker Purple. If you hear snoring in the background, it is our dog.
He's incredibly loud snorer.
Yes, he is an incredibly loud snore. He's a pit mix. He's the biggest teddy bear you will ever meet, but he snores so loudly. Alright, sorry, that was Seeker Purple I just did. Now I'm doing the apricot. I got distracted. There we go. Alright, purple then apricot. I got mixed up, sorry about that, guys. These are a lot easier to pop in. I can go a lot faster because of the size of the seed. So that'll give me 80 Status plants to start with, and then I will start more in the spring because Status does really well with succession planting. Do the same thing, do my label, and then I'll sprinkle them with some soil and put them under the grow lights. Time travel. It is the next day. Got busy yesterday with supper and cleaning and didn't finish up the video and didn't finish planting seeds, but that's okay. Dirt's still on the table and I have a fresh clean tray because the final thing that I'm going to plant are pincushion flowers or scabiosa. So let's get to planting those. Yesterday I already had my soil blocks into my little containers or my little trays like that. However, today, since I was going to do a quick thing of pincushion, I wanted to show you how I did my soil blocks. So I used the potato master to mix up the dirt and water. And honestly, this is the dirt I didn't use yesterday. So when you do it, you want to make sure that when you squeeze it, it holds its form when you squeeze the water out of it. That way you know it'll hold its form in soil block form. Alright, so I mix it up, and then I take this is going to be a little wonky because I'm doing it one-handed, but I just kind of go back and forth because I want to work dirt into the little squares, and then I just kind of get onto a little pile, give it a nice little wiggle, and then I would wipe off any excess that is on the bottom, and I'd use the potato masher to do it. However, I'm doing it on the side since I'm doing this one-handed. Then hold it like this, come over to my tray, and I don't do it in the middle. I leave a little valley right here so I can do it. It'll be like a trough of water for when I water it. The water can get to all the soil blocks and go in between and moisten them. But I just set my soil blocker down to the side, press, and voila. 20 happy little blocks. Do it again. Actually goes pretty quickly. Come over and drop. Ta-da. The one thing I love about soil blocking is that it is forgiving, simply because if you mess up, you can very easily start over. Like right here, when I did my third little section, I did this one too far over. So all I have to do is pick them up, toss them back in. I'm trying to look through the screen and do this, and it's very hard. So I'm gonna look over the camera. There we go. So all I have to do is throw it back in here, and honestly, my soil is too wet, but we're gonna make it work. All right, last time. Give it a wiggle. There we go. Come over, come more so in the middle, so I've got space between each one. There we go. So while I'm finishing this up, talk to you about my plans for the upcoming week. Later today, I'm going to be working with these awesome pumpkins from Wynn Farms here in Martin County. They have some absolutely beautiful pumpkins. I think this may be one of my favorites. Oh, try to get out of the chair. Check that out. Last year I did flower arrangements, live flower arrangements in real pumpkins, and a lot of people really liked them. And so I want to do that again this year, and I want to use some of the different types of pumpkins. I love supporting local farmers. I love it when local farmers work together, and Wynn Farms has a pumpkin patch and has the most beautiful pumpkins, as you can tell. And what's cool is something that you get when you buy from a local farmer versus a box store is you get some great knowledge. They shared with me some tricks on how to get my pumpkins to last a little bit longer, which makes me super happy. And I'll share those with you in another video. But I'm going to work on that today, so that'll probably be one of the next videos I post, is showing you how to do that. But then also, I am keeping a close eye on the weather. We're supposed to get some rain this week, which I'm super excited about, because we are going 2.5 weeks now without any rain, and it's been in the 90s almost every day. My water bill is not very happy. But there's 2 storms that have popped up in the Atlantic, so we're keeping a close eye on those. Hopefully they'll stay away. I don't mind the rain, but it's the torrential downpours and the wind that I don't like from tropical systems, as far as having the flowers out there. So I'll be keeping a close eye on those, and if those storms do decide to take their track and head towards eastern North Carolina, then I will go outside and try to stake off the flowers the best I can, and hopefully that'll help them make it through the storm. But we'll see. We're not there yet. There's still probably a solid week out before we even have a general idea of where they're going to go. But I have my Scabiosa planted, and I'm going to put some dirt over top of it, moisten it, put the plastic wrap over it just like I did the others, and put them on my heat mat. Alright, so that is it for my soil blocking. I have officially started my seeds for spring of 2023. I let these guys grow for a few weeks, and then I will plant them out into the garden. I will put some grow covers over them to protect them as needed, depending upon the weather, and I will keep you guys posted on their progress throughout the season. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope you come back to see me again.